to know from your vantage point, do you think that is something that is on the table now that the Trump administration would attempt going forward?
I would be reluctant to say that there's anything not on the table, but that said, I believe it is extremely unlikely to see so-called boots on the ground. I would like to take exception to the notion that Iran was innocently sitting around and suddenly was brutally attacked by the United States and Israel. Iran has been a huge supporter of terrorism over the years. I mean, when I was in Iraq, I was attacked by a improvised explosive device, something called the Promise Day Brigade. That device came straight out of Iran. So I really have to take exception to the idea that Iran is an innocent in this. Iran has been extremely belligerent in its neighborhood and frankly to the world at large. And one hopes that when the dust finally settles and they get through this, that Iran can again take its place as a responsible state in the world, but that has not been the case for many years.
All right, well, we have run out of time, so we're going to have to leave the conversation. And thanks so much to all of our guests, Sasan Karimi, Maha Yahya, and Christopher Hill. And thank you, too, for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website. That's aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on X. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Mohammed Jamjoom, and the whole team here, bye for now. It's 12 GMT. Welcome to Al Jazeera's extensive coverage of the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. The Israeli military says it's begun a new wave of attacks in Iran. Loud explosions have been heard in Tehran and cities across the country. State media say more than 1,200 people have been killed since the U.S. and Israel began their assault on Saturday. Iran is also continuing its attacks on Gulf nations. There has been a series of loud blasts here in the Qatari capital, Doha. The defense ministry says air defense systems have been intercepting incoming missiles. 6 expat workers from Nepal and Pakistan have been injured by shrapnel in Abu Dhabi following the interception of Iranian missiles. Azerbaijan says 2 people have been injured after Iranian drones and missiles fell near an international airport. It happened in the exclave of Nakhchivan. Azerbaijan has summoned the Iranian ambassador and says it reserves the right to retaliate. We're live in Tehran, Doha, Ramallah, Beirut, Moscow, and London. First, let's go to Mohammed Val in the Iranian capital. Mohammed, just the U.S. and Israel, they've continued to pound Iran. If you could just talk us through the latest strikes, where are they hitting, and how are ordinary Iranians coping?
Yes, Mohammed, Tehran received the biggest amount of pounding and bombing this morning, just over 2 hours ago. We were eyewitnesses to that, and we saw plumes of smoke after we heard loud explosions, plumes of smoke rising from at least 5 locations around Tehran. The understanding or the information we have is that they targeted police stations, but they have also hit 3 sports stadiums. One of them is one of the largest in the country. It's the Azadi Stadium, 12,000 seats there, and it has been partly destroyed. We don't know the target behind it or under that stadium, and there is no clarity about why they target sports stadiums. Other cities also in Iran were targeted this morning, including Saqiz, Marivan, and Sanandaj. Sanandaj in the Iranian Kurdistan region. The state TV there was hit twice. At the beginning it was hit, then people gathered to try to rescue the victims. Then another strike, and that's why there are fears of casualties there. We don't have the specific reports so far, but this is the situation here, and there is no let-up in the strikes and bombardment across Iran.
All right, now here in the Qatari capital, Doha, as we've said, several loud explosions have been heard in the past few hours. The government says the country came under attack and the air defense system intercepted incoming missiles. It issued a national emergency alert warning of an elevated threat level. Zain Basravi is live for us now in Doha. Zain, just tell us what's happening at this hour.
Well, I can tell you in the last hour or so, the Ministry of Interior has issued another alert saying the security threat has been eliminated and the situation has returned to normal. So the Ministry of Interior there sounding the all clear, but the reality is that the experience of the last few hours for the people living here in Doha, across Qatar, certainly in the GCC as well, with the number of attacks we've seen throughout the course of the day, it'll have people asking some serious questions about what comes next. Now, what happened here in Doha was at around noon, between noon and 1 o'clock, we heard about 4 loud explosions come outside. You look up in the sky, you can see those plumes of smoke that happen when Patriot missile defense systems and other types of defensive weapons are able to hit the targets, hit the rockets and missiles coming in from Iran. Those interceptions take place. You see the smoke in the sky. It went from about 4 to a dozen loud bangs very quickly, and then within an hour or so, there are 24 loud explosions heard all over the city. We had debris fall in multiple areas across the city. We saw interceptions in West Bay behind me, over Al Saad, and other areas near Aspire Stadium, which are central key parts of the city. So what we are seeing is, even though there was a lull in the frequency and volume of strikes over the course of the last few days, certainly in the last 24 hours, there was relative calm in Doha. What we've seen now is that the number of attacks seem to be going up quickly as they try to target different U.S. assets here. Presumably, the installation they were trying to target was the U.S. Embassy from the threat assessments we've seen in the last few days, certainly by what we've seen happening in the consulate in Dubai and the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh. What we're seeing is those attacks are coming closer. They're coming into more central parts of the city, and they're trying to hit those targets more consistently. And we're seeing debris fall once again in heavily populated civilian areas.
And Zain, we know that there have been attacks elsewhere in the Gulf region. What more do you know on that front?
That is correct. What we can tell you is that in the UAE, the Ministry of Defense says they dealt with 6 ballistic missiles and 131 drones today. The UAE also saying 6 foreign nationals were injured by debris fall in an industrial zone in Abu Dhabi. Citizens from Pakistan and Nepal were injured, but no casualties at this time. And earlier today, Saudi Arabia reported taking down multiple drones in different parts of the country. There was also a report of an oil tanker off the coast of Kuwait that was hit. There was an explosion and an oil spill that followed. So even though the number and frequency of these attacks seem to be going down, what we're seeing is that what Iran is able to do is continue to destabilize, continue to create uncertainty by simply having singular targets in different areas. As long as the spread is wide enough, the instability still remains at a very high level.
All right, that's Zain Basrawi live for us in Doha. Zain, thanks so much. Back now to Mohammed Val, who's live for us in Tehran. Mohammed, we know that strikes are expanding in the Gulf, as we just heard. What do you think Iran's strategy is here?
Well, let me first tell you that they have announced just a while ago that within the 19th wave of the True Promise Operation number 4, they have launched another heavy missile called Khurram Shahr 4, maybe for the first time, against Israel. And also they talked about a tanker, an American tanker or ship that is burning in the Strait of Hormuz after it has been attacked by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. As to your question, Iran has warned, even at the beginning of this war, that once it is attacked, it is going to retaliate against any place from which those attacks came against Iran, and that's what they are doing. For Iran, there is this is no longer the phase of hesitation. This is no longer the phase of cosmetic reactions, such as what we saw after the killing of Qasem Soleimani. This is another phase, totally different. They consider that they have crossed the Rubicon in this war, and there is no going back in terms of what they consider their legitimate defense. But the question here is, and many people are asking, why are they targeting oil facilities and gas facilities, for instance, when we know that some of those facilities do not host American troops or American forces. That's something that area is very ambiguous. But we also know that Iran has mentioned many times during the last few days that it did not target Aramco. They did not say that on the highest levels, by the way, but it was sources close to the government. But today we have denial, very, very clear denial of targeting Azerbaijan, for instance. That came from the military chief of staff and also from the deputy foreign minister. They all denied categorically that they have targeted Azerbaijan. Yesterday, they denied that they have targeted Turkey, and they are saying that these are acts of sabotage by the Israelis to try to trigger a much wider chaos in the region and also to create divisions between Muslim countries. So there is a lot of clarity needed here, and everybody needs Iranians to talk about every incident. For instance, in the last few days when they denied targeting Aramco, and also they denied targeting Oman in general. But we know that Oman was hit several times and so on. So this is an area of confusion and ambiguity here, and it's not clear what the real policy of Iran is regarding it.
All right, that's Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val live for us from Tehran with all the latest. Thanks so much, Mohammed. Israel says along with targeting Iran, its forces are also continuing the offensive against Hezbollah along Israel's northern border.
In Qom, we have destroyed missile launchers. We have attacked more than 320 sites and locations. More than 300,000 Lebanese have been evacuated, and we will continue hitting Hezbollah. We will continue defending the citizens in the north.
All right, let's head over now live to Ramallah and speak to Noor Odeh. Noor, there's a new wave of attacks on Tel Aviv. What sort of damage is being reported? Also, Israel launched another wave of attacks on Tehran. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, let's start with the Israeli attacks on Tehran, Mohammed. The objective, according to the Israeli military and officials, is to shake the foundations of power and control of the Iranian government. And that explains targeting up to 40 police stations just today. The idea is to make sure that the grip of power is undermined, is shaken, and that way the thinking is it would encourage the opposition, it would encourage ordinary Iranians to perhaps rise up and take control. It's a long shot, even according to military experts in Israel. Now, back here in Israel, Iran has been sending missiles. There are two fresh warnings for the coastal area in Israel and across the illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. And we've seen a warning after another for incoming drones and rockets coming from southern Lebanon as well. The damage is extensive, at least what we know and what has been cleared from the Israeli military censor. Estimates put it at $2 billion just in the past week. 1,400 Israelis, or close to 1,500, have been injured and received treatment in hospital. And the Israeli government is trying to ease restrictions to provide some sense of normalcy to more than 500,000 Israelis who've been out of work for about a week now. But it is not proving easy, given the fact that there are large chunks of the day when Israelis have to be either in shelters or near them.
And Noor, Defense Minister Israel Katz confirmed that ground troops are now holding and advancing in southern Lebanon. What's the overarching strategy there?
Well, holding a territory, meaning occupying it, Mohammed. Advancing means occupying more territory. That is the strategy in a nutshell, to take over more Lebanese territory, to clear it of its Lebanese residents, and to create a Lebanese-free so-called buffer zone inside Lebanon. That is the military doctrine that Israel has implemented in Lebanon, in Syria, in the occupied Golan Heights, and even in Gaza. In fact, the Israeli military is saying that it will be sending more battalions into Lebanese territory. There are at least 10 points points now where the Israeli military is stationed. There were 5 just a few days ago. And, Israel expects the confrontation with Iran to last weeks, but it expects the confrontation with Hezbollah to last even longer. And that is a source for worry among Israelis, because where you get advanced and early warning of incoming missiles from Iran, you do not get that when the missiles are coming from Lebanon.
All right, that's Noor Ade live for us with all the latest from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Thank you so much, Noor. In Lebanon, tens of thousands of people have been uprooted from their homes due to Israeli airstrikes and forced evacuation orders. Israel has been pounding areas across the country, including the capital, Beirut. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has been escalating fast since the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Our correspondent Zaina Khudr has more from Beirut.
The Israeli military renewing an evacuation order warning residents living south of the Litani to the Israeli border to leave, this time specifying Tyre, the southern city of Tyre. Now, southern city of Tyre does lie south of the Litani River, but not everybody left the city yesterday when the initial warning was issued. And that really could explain the intense airstrikes that targeted the city center late last night. The Litani River runs across southern Lebanon. At its deepest point to the Israeli border, it's about 25 kilometers. The border between Israel and Lebanon, 120 kilometers. So this is vast territory where many people live. But already we have to remember tens of thousands of people have been displaced because of the last confrontation back in late 2024. All the villages that lie along the border are empty. And the displacement, people started to move late on Monday when the latest confrontation began. The Lebanese government says more than 80,000 people have been displaced. You can see some of them behind me. They're sleeping on roads. They're sleeping in their vehicles. Yes, there are shelters. Schools are open, but it's just not enough. And even 80,000 is a conservative figure, but there are many other people who are able to afford accommodation elsewhere, and other people have left the country. So this is a growing humanitarian crisis. But at the same time, these evacuation orders, many see this as part of a strategy for Israel to operate more freely in southern Lebanon. And there's a lot of concern, especially following orders by the Israeli defense minister for the army to take additional positions inside Lebanon.
The Israeli military has asked tens of thousands of residents of southern Lebanon to move north of the Litani River. This suggests imminent attacks in the area, fueling what's already become a mass displacement crisis. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith is live for us in Beirut. Bernard, tell us what's happening at this hour where you are.
Mohammed, over my shoulder, you can see some smoke still rising from a target in the southern suburbs that was hit earlier on today by Israel. That's pretty common over the last few days. And over my head, the incessant noise from Israeli drones that have been going on for days and days, monitoring what's going on, looking for targets that they will then call in to the Israeli Air Force, that they will then hit down in southern Beirut, but they're also hitting targets elsewhere in Beirut as well. Hezbollah, for its part, it says today it's carried out 23 drone and rocket attacks against Israel, and it's reported direct confrontation with Israeli forces. It says we're advancing towards a southern Lebanese town of Hayam. That is about 10 kilometers up from the border with Israel, so an indication of how far, according to Hezbollah, Israeli forces are penetrating into Lebanon. Mohammed.
All right, Bernard, thanks so much for that update. We'll be coming back to you in the hours ahead for more. As we've been reporting, Azerbaijan says 2 people have been injured after Iranian drones and missiles fell near an international airport. It happened in the exclave of Nakhchivan. Azerbaijan has summoned the Iranian ambassador and says it reserves the right to retaliate. All right, Dmitry Medvedenko is live for us now in Moscow. Dmitry, tell us more about what you're hearing when it comes to Azerbaijan and this attack on the exclave of Nakhchivan.
Well, we just received an update from the Azerbaijani Health Ministry that 4 people in the end have, addressed injuries in a hospital. So basically, we can just say 4 people have been injured as a result of these attacks. So Azerbaijan said that 2 drones at around midday local time, that's around 8 GMT, were flown and launched from the Iranian territory into the exclave of Nakhchivan. This is a strip of land the size of roughly the occupied West Bank, sandwiched between Iran, Turkey, and Armenia. And they said that one of the drones hit the roof of the local airport. The city of Nakhchivan is just, 100,000 people live there. It's not a big city. And the airport, however, has a status of an international airport. And then another drone landed in a schoolyard. So nearby schools were evacuated. So Baku expressed its utmost concern with the situation, demanded an explanation from Iran, and now we have had a reaction from Iranian general staff denying that they launched any drones into Azerbaijan and accusing Israel of launching a false flag attack.
Dmitry, let me ask you about another angle to all this. Russia is one of Iran's biggest allies. We know that. What have they been saying thus far when it comes to this conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran?
Well, Moscow has been consistent in supporting Iran in this situation to the point of accusing the United States and Israel of escalating the situation, of interrupting peaceful negotiations, and of attacking a sovereign nation. So in the latest communique from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Moscow has been saying that Iran was provoked into attacking its neighbors, specifically saying Arab states. So this statement came out around the same time that Baku reported that it was attacked by Iran. So we're just assuming that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not incorporate that information into its statement. And so right now, Moscow is basically saying that there are no signs of abating of violence, that the United States and Israel are showing no interest in resolving the situation peacefully, and it's been calling on Iran and on the United States and Israel to find some kind of peaceful resolution. Also, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov was asked today if Russia is going to be providing military assistance to Iran. Let's just remind our viewers that Russia and Iran have a strategic partnership agreement, not a military alliance, so Russia is not obliged to come to military rescue, as it is, for example, with North Korea. They have a military alliance. And so Dmitry Peskov said, no, we have had no requests for military assistance, and therefore, no, it's not happening.
All right. That's Al Jazeera's Dmitry Medvedenko live for us in Moscow. Dmitry, thanks so much. Cyprus said that an alert for new security threats in the town of Akrotiri near a British air base has concluded. This comes after a drone hit the British Royal Air Force on Monday. 2 Greek warships have since arrived to bolster the island. Several European countries are sending naval assets in the coming days. John Saropoulos has more from Limassol in Cyprus.
Sirens blared at the British Air Force Base on Akrotiri on Wednesday night. Later, the Cypriot government spokesman said it had been a false alarm. Also, false alarm on Wednesday morning when 2 Greek fighter jets scrambled to intercept a suspected drone heading towards Cypriot airspace. Cypriots are trying to preserve a sense of normality. They're going about their lives, they're shopping, they're going to work. They are mainly concerned not about their safety. Many people have their own household basements to retreat to if they need to. They're mainly concerned about the economy because some near-term rentals are being cancelled by tourist agencies, by people who were planning to spend their spring holidays here. That is mainly the concern here. The second concern is that the island should not become embroiled in the politics of the Middle East, and that the 2 British sovereign bases on the island should not be used for any active military operations, offensive operations in the US-Israel war with Iran. The islanders here, the Cypriot people, want very much to remain neutral. They want to be able to help in a humanitarian capacity should that be needed, but safety and neutrality are their principal concerns.
Richard Gaisford is outside 10 Downing Street in London, live for us right now. Richard, the NATO Secretary General spoke earlier today. He said that it's difficult to assess how the conflict in Iran will end. Tell us what else you know.
Yeah, Mark Rutte talking to journalists saying that at the moment there is no talk amongst NATO countries about enacting Article 5, which of course allows for a joint response from all of them if one is under threat. And that came after questions to him regarding an Iranian ballistic missile that was destroyed heading towards Turkish airspace. The EU also in conversation today with Gulf states, the EU's foreign policy chief sitting down with journalists saying that they want to do all they can to help these Gulf countries actually fend off Iranian drone strikes, but is warning too that there may be a shortage of supplies of the relevant kit because not only, of course, they've got to help in the Middle East, but they're also helping in Ukraine at the same time. Here in London this morning, we've just heard from a Foreign Office Minister, Hamish Faulkner, who said that in indications that he's seeing, he believes this crisis in Iran is likely to last for weeks, if not months, and is not one that can be measured in days.
Richard, we now hear that Spain is also sending a ship to Cyprus. What other details have emerged when it comes to that story?
Yeah, that is a frigate that's going to be heading from Spain towards Cyprus. It will join with a French aircraft carrier that will also be in the area. We've heard talk this morning on the programme, of course, about Greek warships around Cyprus too. Italian resources also being brought into play. European countries really starting to gear up now for this crisis. A part of that package was supposed to be a Type 45 destroyer from Britain's Royal Navy. That, though, currently sits